I know Brent is exceptionally pleased right now because I take it, Brent, that right now you have that Phil Steele mag in your possession.
I do, Trav. It was got it over the weekend, and always good to pick up that Phil Steele magazine. By the way, $15 for that magazine, Trav. If you can believe that.
It should come on. There should be an accompanying CD with it where you can listen to it too for $50. I mean, Phil is feeling himself, I guess you could say right now.
Yeah, and I think part of that reason is, as he mentions in his magazine many times, that he's now a full-time employee of ESPN.
Yes.
So that also goes along with it too. But Alabama #1. He has got a lot of love for Michigan, that probably more than anybody else that I've seen. So still takes those trifocals I've got, Trav, to be able to read it. But Phil is out now, and for folks at the beach or going to the beach for the 4th of July, that's always some good reading material.
Absolutely. And look, Phil, people may strongly disagree with this. I think Phil is a master compiler of statistical data and information, but I'm not sure Phil Steele knows the difference between Nickelback, the band, and the Nickelback position at Alabama when it comes to the ins and outs of the game of football. But he does an outstanding job of putting all the stuff together in one publication. Now, a lot of people, they view the Steele mag as the just slam dunk, no questions asked, #1 publication, preview publication when it comes to college football. But you're not one of those people, are you?
Well, I like it, and I always get it. But I'll be honest with you, Trav, it's a hard read. Now, there are times it certainly comes in handy as far as a guide is concerned. But frankly, your Lindy's and Athlon and some of these other magazines, if you just want a quick guide with schedule and with a roster, etc., those magazines are probably easier to find things with than Phil Steele's magazine is.
Let's talk college football broadcast duos as we get closer to the 2019 season. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, Brent. It seems like ESPN/ABC/the SEC network, they announce their pairings. Is it usually right around SEC Media Days? And we get more of the college football TV schedule around that time too, don't we? Yes. Now, in Destin, you get the first 3 weeks of the season. But you're right. As you get on into it, you get a little bit more information around SEC Media Days, and I'm sure we will. They've got listen, one of the first things you see when you walk through the lobby is this television that is replaying a lot of the highlights from the CBS games from last season. So yes, you'll see a lot more of the pairings and kind of what they want to do with that. So yes, that's about your timetable. Yeah, and I think maybe a little bit of an under-the-radar subtraction from the ESPN platform's roster is the departure of Brock Huard to Fox Sports. We've talked about it in recent weeks. It'll be interesting to see how they sort of supplement that or make up for that loss moving forward. Still a pretty impressive roster. I still contend that Sean McDonough is the best play-by-play person doing it. Who do you have at the top of that list?
Well, he does a great job. There's no question about that. Folks don't appreciate, and without getting too nostalgic here, the Keith Jacksons of the world.
who've obviously come and gone at this time. But I've always had a thing for keeping up with analysts and with play-by-play guys. And I know everybody gets mad at Gary Danielson, but I still think Gary does a very credible job as far as analysis and talking to the coordinators and so forth. So, but I think I've always thought, Travis, the guys who are accused of "you hate my school," and everybody does that to them, that means they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, whatever you think of Gary Danielson, it's pretty evident the guy does his homework, does a ton of preparation, does a ton of film work, understands the most important position on the field, quarterback, as well as anyone. I'm with you there. And Kirk Herbstreit catches some of that grief too. I mean, and Kirk, on social media, he takes the gloves off with some of his detractors from time to time.
Herbie, frankly, is very good. I mean, Herbie is one of the highest paid talent that ESPN has. And by the way, there won't be enough said about this today, but Bob Lee has announced his retirement as of today. I think it's going to be the end of the month. But I'll say this, Trav, they need a lot more Bob Lees at ESPN than they need Skip Bayless's or guys who are yelling and screaming at people. So I think that's one of the reasons I enjoyed Brock Heward, as you mentioned a few minutes ago. But oftentimes these guys who can say very little in a short period of time, or frankly, shall we say, a lot in a short period of time, have been the more memorable guys.
Yeah, and 22 broadcast teams on the ABC, ESPN, SEC network platforms last year. If you want to know how much more college football we're getting now compared to even 10 years ago, that should pretty much tell you where we're at in terms of saturation of the sport. Hey, Brent, wanted to ask you, Stephen Leath out as the president at Auburn University. That was, you talk about a Friday night news dump from over the weekend. That one came to bear early in the weekend. What was your take from all that?
I'm surprised that the Auburn beat writers and Auburn fans didn't roll Toomer's Corner after that, frankly, because they did not like, well, there are two reasons that they did not like Stephen Leath. One was because the Gus Malzahn contract that he overpaid for, and two would be he actually tried to stand up to Bruce Pearl, and Pearl pretty much just kind of bulldozed his way through there, and that didn't work. So you had a lot of this. Well, he's coming from out west, and he doesn't understand Auburn, doesn't understand the athletics with that too. So that when I first saw it, that was my reaction after seeing the reaction of the beat writers, and also and probably even more so with them than even the fans.
Absolutely. Hey, Brent, wanted to ask you about this situation at the University of Georgia involving wide receiver Jeremiah Holloman. We talked about it earlier in the week. Obviously, a really, really disappointing situation all the way around involving Holloman and an ex-girlfriend. Apparently, the alleged incident took place in April of 2018, just now coming to light. With her charges, Holloman has been dismissed from the football team by head coach Kirby Smart. On the field, Brent, what does this mean for the Georgia Bulldogs?
Well, first of all, I hope the girlfriend is okay. But as far as on the field stuff, and again, I mean, Trav, the one way I've looked at this is that you're not replacing Jerry Jeudy here. I mean, Holloman was a guy that made some plays last year, but I think Holloman with George Pickens coming in and Dominique Blaylock, and if they can ever try to do something with Demetrius Robertson, the Cal transfer, I think they will be okay. And I think overall the reason they will be okay is I still think they've got maybe the best offensive line in football. And two, they've got an excellent quarterback. Maybe their best receiver is DeAndre Swift. Anyway, so for the teams they've got on their schedule, beginning with Vanderbilt, they can run the ball and play defense, win that game, and frankly can probably do the same thing with Notre Dame. But don't you think that by November, some of these guys will be up to speed, and the passing game will be better than I think it will early on. But I think when you've got some of the other pieces of the puzzle, as solid as they are, particularly that offensive line, that takes a lot of the sting out of this for me.
Yeah, I think the potential is there for a guy like George Pickens to come in and be as impactful for the Dogs as, say, a Seth Williams was last season as a true freshman for the Auburn Tigers. Yeah. I think he has at least that kind of potential. Don't know as much about Dominic Blaylock, a guy that Kirby's obviously excited about getting on campus. But as much as anything, Tyler Simmons has got to pick it up. Demetrius Robertson, we've been hearing about this guy for 4 years now, going back to his recruitment out of Savannah, Georgia. So they have other guys, and the way that they utilize their backs in the passing game and their tight ends. DeAndre Swift caught, I want to say, 30-plus balls last year. So he can help cover for some of that as well. But, Jake Fromm's an experienced quarterback at this point. A lot of people view Jake Fromm as a future first-round pick. And if he is, in fact, that, well, we're going to find out more on that topic this season, because he should be at a point where he can lift the other boats around him more so than he was able to in his first 2 years behind center. So who had a worse weekend, Brent? Georgia with the Jeremiah Holloman situation, or LSU with this inquiry from the NCAA involving a booster who allegedly stole more than $500,000 from Our Lady of the Lake Foundation and sent approximately $180,000 of that to the father of Badal Alexander, the former offensive guard at LSU, who played for the Tigers from 2012 to 2015. Worst weekend in the SEC. Was it LSU or was it Georgia?
I would say LSU because still Holloman can be replaced. The LSU situation, that's going to take a while to unpack that one. I'm guessing the Snickers and some of the football offices and LSU's rivals talking about paying nearly $200,000 for an offensive guard. I would have liked to heard a little bit about that. And then this guy, John Paul Funes, has also been linked with Rohan Davey, the former LSU quarterback. And I think that would probably be what, if you can use the term, beyond the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
But I mean, Trav, still, as far as the NCAA is concerned, in thinking this through, I mean, this is, again, a booster giving a player money. And look, I know that's a violation, and certainly, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it would looked upon, I think, maybe even differently than it is today. But LSU is one of the bigger boys. SEC and CBS want to get a new contract going. I mean, I certainly don't see LSU being punished postseason for this. I mean, if anything even comes of it, they could lose a few scholarships. Now, could they dovetail the Will Wade basketball stuff in here? I mean, I would think they would take both of them separately, but Alabama fans will remember how a basketball violation got everybody in trouble back in the 90s. So I'll be curious with this quote unquote new NCAA wanting to get tougher, Trav, would that make a difference in this situation?
That was kind of the deal with Ole Miss, right? There were multiple sports involved in that situation, and more specifically, and I know some Ole Miss fans are casting a leery eye towards this LSU situation and kind of like taking the approach of, well, what are you going to do to LSU? You didn't have a football office employee directly implicated, or you don't yet with LSU like you had with Ole Miss in that situation under Hugh Freeze. Brent, let's ask you about the College World Series championship game. It's a championship game tonight. That's what it is in Omaha, Nebraska. You know, we talked about Vanderbilt having one job within the Southeastern Conference. It is one win away from accomplishing its mission here on the baseball diamond. What do you think tonight? Is Vanderbilt's depth ultimately too much for Michigan in this situation, or is Michigan maybe just more of a team of destiny after going through Corvallis and going through L.A. and getting to this point as a last four team in the college baseball tournament?
I think the good thing is they both have got still a lot of depth and a lot of guys left in the pen. I mean, Michigan went through a lot of guys last night. When you've got this Rocker kid who pitching so well, you don't have to use very many pitchers. Vandy's closer, Tyler Brown, struggled a little bit early on. Then he got it together, and he looked good. But I think what you've seen here, Trav, for these first two games is whoever gets off to who strikes first is kind of able to win. I did think it was interesting that in the last 5 years that the team that's won the second game is going on to win the series in this one. So I'm like you. I like Vandy and I like their depth. But I tell you what, Trav, if this Rocker kid, if he perfects a changeup or another pitch with that slider and fastball, how good is that kid going to be in a couple of years?
Yeah, I said it earlier. He's almost not to the extent that we saw in the college. He's almost the Zion Williamson right now of college baseball, as much as people are talking about Kumar Rocker. Well, as always, Brent, we appreciate the time. Great catching up with you. As always, great stuff at College Sports Today and also First Coast News. Give him a follow on Twitter at Brent Beard, BrentBeard. Thanks a lot, Brent.
Did you, pal? Take care.